ये लड़की सस्पेक्ट नहीं लग रही है।
पत्रकार है, कहानियां बनाने की आदत होती है इनकी, जो बाद में सच्ची भी लगने लगती है।
Was good to finally catch up with you again. I think the last time we spoke was for your first UK interview, actually.
Yes.
For Jawaani Jaaneman. My God, what a long time ago that was.
Yeah, very long ago, actually.
Yes. So UTurn on ZEE5 is another thriller you've done. I think when it comes to this style of storytelling, besides the script and the director, what other factors help you in exploring dark themes and grey characters?
I think for me, it's always been the script. I think this on a script level, a script drives a thriller. Without it, no matter how great the performances are or aren't, it won't really matter as much. You know, when you're on the edge of your seat at every given point of time, guessing and having your own theories, and you're surprised and shocked and excited and thrilled by it. I think that's when a thriller really succeeds. And on a script level, U-Turn was completely correct right from the start, and I think that's what really drew me to this film. Is that on a script level, I think the audiences are going to be so happy, and as an actor, then you just sort of rely on the script, and I'm a big director's actor, so I just trust my director and go with the flow.
Wow, I mean, such an amazing growth to see you, Alaya, by the way. Since the first interview you've done, you've really come such a long way. I'm really proud of you, and
Thank
love
you.
to hear that. But look, the film is a remake of the 2016 Kannada film of the same name. If we look nowadays, it's very rare for a Hindi remake to succeed due to, I guess, the lack of relatability and compelling structure of the movie, of the remake for for the Hindi audiences. And of course, Drishyam 2 was a huge exception. So how do you think perhaps Hindi cinema can retrace its authenticity, do you think, in filmmaking and storytelling?
I think, firstly, one specification is that this film is not as much a remake as it is an adaptation. There is so much in our film that's fresh and new. In fact, the only real similarities are already in the trailer. So everything after that, all the twists and turns, the ending, everything is different in our film. I think a remake always works if you have something fresh to say with it. If you just want to copy paste, nowadays I don't think that would work, because everyone has access to OTT platforms where things are dubbed and subtitled and all of that. So our film has something fresh to say. Our film is essentially a new film, and the heart of it, which is what the only real similarity is, something that has been not only done once before, but actually it's been done like 5 times before. There have been so many versions of U-Turn, not only within India, but also globally. So yeah, the heart is what everyone likes, and that's there in our film. And after that, everything else is surprising. Whether you've seen any version of U-Turn, you'll still be just as surprised when you watch our film.
Right. I think the choice of work you've pursued, including U-Turn on ZEE5 Global, is distinct from what a newcomer would stereotypically choose. So tell me, what criteria do you consider when being approached for a project, and what do you particularly disapprove of as well at the same time?
Something in it has to come together for me. There's no real there's no formula to it. I feel like I've been very lucky that from my first film onwards, I've been approached with really interesting scripts and really interesting roles and characters. And I just try to pick what resonates with me the most out of what comes to me. There are films that I hear about that I feel I really resonate with, and I chase those films. And there are films that come to me like U-Turn, that when I get a narration of it, I'm instantly drawn in and hooked and attached, and I can imagine myself being in that world and being that character. And of course, when you're backed by people like Ekta ma'am, it's, for me, it all really comes together really wonderfully. And now for us to have it come out on ZEE5 Global, I think it unlocks a completely new audience for me. So right now, my goals are more long term, and I try and find films that sort of lead me towards those goals. Like, for example, in the start, it was about me proving and establishing that I can act, that I'm here to, do my job and give you a variety of different roles to show you that I'm not someone that wants to be really put into any sort of box, which is why all my films have been of different genres ever since Jawaani Jaaneman. Then to now my goal is to reach out to a much larger Indian audience. All of my films so far have been really urban in a lot of ways. Now is what UTurn is actually one of my more massy films in terms of tone, in terms of approach, in terms of ZEE5 Global's wonderful reach. I think this film is going to be special for those reasons. And now, even post this film, my main goal is now just to appeal to a larger Indian audience and to get those people also to come in and take note.
Absolutely. No, very, very well said there. But, and I was listening back to our podcast that we did,
Yeah.
Jawaani Jaaneman times. And, it's very interesting because you've obviously mixed in the sort of prestigious social circles of where other newcomers have sort of made their debuts and they're doing very well for themselves. But I think one thing that really sets you apart from everyone is that you seem to have grasped the perspective of a common person as well as having that awareness of film. So what do you think helps you to understand cinema and its greater impact on society?
I don't think I fully grasp it yet. I think firstly, it's always changing. There is, like I said, especially in a post-pandemic world, I don't think anyone really has a grasp on what people want to see now, what people are really feeling now. In a post-pandemic world, everyone is trying to suddenly understand what the trends are, what everyone is, gravitating towards watching in a cinema, what people are not gravitating towards. I feel like pre-pandemic, everyone had this sort of understanding about what the audience wants and what we as actors must deliver to the audiences. I think post-pandemic, everything is so different. So I think just like everyone else, I'm still figuring it out. I don't think I understand it fully. I think for me, it's more about being a part of films that I'm proud of, whether my films work, don't work, whether they are super successful or whether they're not successful at all. For me, as long as I can look back at that film and say, hey, that's a film I'm proud of, my job is done. Because I feel like I've delivered some sort of quality content out there. That's where my job ends then. I don't think I would gravitate towards a script or a film that didn't somewhere make me feel satisfied as an actor or as someone that's presenting something and putting it out there. So for me, as long as I believe in the film and I believe we are making a good film and I as an actor deliver in terms of a performance that I'm meant to deliver on, I think I'm happy and I'm satisfied. And I think an audience is also smart enough and an audience understands.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, you definitely can't trick them anymore.
You can't.
In fact, they've become very quick as well to give you
Yeah,
that response as well, which I think is
100%.
quite good as well, I think. But I think, one thing that I'm going to pick up on is again talking about commercialism. I feel like that definition has changed a lot, especially since the pandemic.
Yeah.
Of course, you have the larger than life, escapist, big Bollywood, big ticketed films, of course, which are doing well, and I'm happy to see that.
Yeah.
But I would like to specifically ask you, Alaya, what does commercial cinema mean to you? And do you think that the pandemic has kind of perhaps impacted your strategy in planning, the projects or your acting career as well?
I think post-pandemic, everything is different. In interviews, I get asked a lot about why I'm making such unconventional choices. Whether am I actively doing it or am I doing it? They're just basically asking me what my reasoning is behind it. And the first thing I go and point out at that point is that the lines between what is conventional and what is unconventional is completely changed now in a post-pandemic world. The things that people believed were hyper commercial are suddenly not working anymore. It's feeling old, it's feeling dated. Suddenly, this audience, because they've had access to OTT platforms, and that's been their main source of entertainment and films and shows and all of that. I think now they're expecting high quality content and they're expecting content that's different, that's new, that has a new perspective, that, in some way feels different. I think, and so I think right now, the whole idea of a commercial film is totally different. It's, you can make a film that's larger than life, but unless it has a story, unless it grips you in some way, unless it makes you feel something, no matter how great the visuals are, the audience doesn't care. Now, so I feel like that has changed completely. I am still figuring out my strategy. What's good now is earlier there was this semblance of a formula and you had to just sort of figure your way into the formula. Now there is no semblance of a formula. So as much as I'm figuring it out, everyone else is figuring it out too. So it's quite nice because I don't feel as new and clueless, because I feel like right now everyone is sort of a little clueless and everyone's trying to figure it out. So I'm figuring it out too. Every time I make a choice, it has a specific purpose, but I don't plan it 5 choices in advance.
And I'm really glad you mentioned this as well, because I feel like what's happening as well is that एक तो mental health की awareness तो आ चुकी है, and I think even in your U-turn, I think that definitely is quite an interesting subliminal theme, which kind of is a part of that. But I think even if you think about in life today for actors generally, digital, social media, there's a lot of constant pressure, I think, in order to stay relevant. But I think the one thing that I like about you, Alaya, is that you've never been afraid to voice your opinions, but in a way where you're also open to showing your vulnerabilities. So for you as an artist, do you feel that it's important as well in this era where it's not just a Instagram story of mental health, but actually putting yourself and expressing that vulnerability? Do you think that's really important as well in today's day and age?
Of course, I think it's so important for you to allow yourself to just be human and to allow people to see you just be human. Gone are the days where actors or people that you see on screen are these larger than life figures that are almost godlike in a lot of ways. Now is the time where the same actor that you see on screen looking absolutely flawless with their hair blowing in the wind, doing the most incredible things, looking flawless, doing all of that, you see that same actor come out of the gym in with their hair scrunched up in a bun, with oversized t-shirts, not looking their best, with no makeup on their face. Those same actors now you also get to see on social media. You have to find a great balance of deciding. First, I think it's very pointless to put on a face where you believe that. I feel like you have to be vulnerable now, because if you're not, everyone will see through it. I feel like right now everyone needs a sense of relatability in the people that they're looking up to, more than something aspirational. I think people just want to feel seen in the people that they're looking up to. So I've always believed in keeping it real and being authentic, mainly because I feel like it's I can't imagine how stressful it would be if the version you portray of yourself isn't your most authentic form. Then, because as an actor your job is 24/7. It's not a 9 to 5 and then you go home. It's all the time. And so anytime you're in front of the cameras, you have to just put on this persona. It just seems like such an odd way to live life. So for me, my strategy has always been just be me and hope people like it. And that's just been the approach I've taken with my social media, with my interviews, with the way I behave on a set, with the way I behave with the people around me. I've just kept it as authentic. And in the process of that, I obviously have to take care of my mental health, because if my authentic self is struggling, then that would affect everything.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, when you've got such big examples at home as well, where you've got your mum and then you've got your Nana Ji, who's obviously a huge legend. Kabir Bedi sir, wow. They have obviously not had the conventional form of of stardom, right?
Yeah.
They've obviously had very unconventional choices. And I think when it comes to, of course, I'm not going to ask you about what advice they've given to you and all that, but in terms of when you have such examples and a legacy like that, do you feel that also kind of rubs off on you a little bit as well, and perhaps how you look at life through that lens?
So I don't think I ever saw them as actors or people in the in public eye, in my personal space. My mother was pretty much done with acting by the time I was born. you know, she very often talks about how she never really wanted to even be an actor. It was just sort of something she sort of fell into. My Nana, who of course has done a lot of work in India, but had his main success and fame actually happen in Italy. You know, that's where
True.
he's really had his massive burst. So in a personal space, you know, I never really grew up going to very many industry parties or any of that. So my life growing up with them was sort of just normal. You know, it wasn't
Yeah.
nearly as different from someone else's life as you would perhaps imagine. You know, so what I have taken on from them is, when I did decide to become an actor, was from my mother. I realized every room she walks into, whenever she walks out of it, everyone's left with a smile and a lot more energy. So from her, I wanted to take those qualities. So I sort of,
Right.
you know, landed up imbibing those. From my Nana, it was his professionalism and the way he goes about dealing with his work. That was one of the things I imbibed from him, where I thought, hey, that's something that's really nice. That's something I'd like to be, if I was to be an actor. So
Okay.
more in that sense rather than any other way. Yeah.
hmm Now, in UTurn on ZEE5 Global, you know, you play a journalist who obviously is a murder suspect as well, which is delightful. Um, so of course it's a situation which is very sticky, and I'm sure it's a very scary situation to be in. So if you could recount perhaps a time in your life where you've been in a very intense situation, a bottleneck situation like your character, what would that situation be? And would you ever want to take a U-turn from that situation now in sort of retrospect?
I'm trying to think of just one. I mean, I get involved in like small, sticky situations every day. I'm trying to think of like an important one.
Name
Uh,
them.
there's always some of the other sticky situations going on that you have to keep figuring out. But a large one. Sometimes there are projects where you absolutely just have such a hard time saying no because they don't take no for an answer. Um, you know, there were so many projects where yeah, I think that's always a little sticky, being able to say no
Yeah.
to people. Sometimes it's with people that you really want to work with, and but just something about the project in itself doesn't add up for you. Or yes, that's the trickiest for me, when it's actually a maker that I perhaps really want to work with, but the project that they're giving me is not the project I want to do with them. You know, it's a moment of, I really want to work with you, but not on this. You know, that's always really tricky, because you have to sort of figure out how to handle it sensitively, because it's, you know, yeah, always saying no to a project is a very sticky situation that always leads to, yeah, it's always a big mess.
All right. Well, look, Alaya, on that note, we've run out of time, but it's been such a pleasure to have you yet again on Filme Shilmy,
Thank
and
you.
wishing you all the very best for U-Turn on ZEE5 Global. And I can't wait to catch up with you again soon, hopefully in London next time.
Yes, I was just in London.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
you were.
I was
Okay.
in the UK for 45 days shooting right
Oh
now.
God. Oh
Just
God.
got
I should have just messaged you and we could have met up.
back.
See, I'm
Oh,
so
next
bad.
time.
Next time, Pakka,
Next
definitely. But
time.
look, wishing you all the very best,
Thank
Alaya.
you so
Thank you
much.
so much. All right
Thank
then.
you.
Bye bye.